Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this Friday night. Sensex and the Nifty end the week at record levels after a late rally on Friday. Foreign portfolio investors have pumped in nearly $13 billion into India since the start of the year, much higher than many Asian peers, including South Korea, Taiwan, among others.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
India's third moon mission successfully lifts off from Sriharikota. Chandrayaan-3 will attempt a soft landing on the lunar surface after a 6-week journey. If successful, India will be the fourth nation to land a probe on the moon. Prime Minister Modi and French President Macron attend the Bastille Day parade in Paris. India's UPI flies into France, expanding its global footprint. Indian tourists in France will be able to make payments in rupees. JPMorgan reports strong quarterly earnings as profits jump 67%, revenue up 34%. On the other hand, CitiGroup's quarterly profits declined 36%, revenue down 1%. Water levels in the Yamuna start to recede. Several low-lying areas in Delhi remain inundated. 23,000 people have been evacuated so far. The Met predicts heavy rains in Uttarakhand over the next few days. The government has not given up on its intent to bring credit cards under the RBI's liberalised remittance scheme, despite going back on an earlier order. Sources say the credit card networks, banks and authorised dealers are gearing up for this eventuality. An implementation date will be considered once systems are in place. That's an exclusive. Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar gets the finance portfolio in the Maharashtra cabinet expansion. Portfolios allocated to the 8 other MLAs who joined the Shinde government along with Pawar as well. Dhananjay Munde is the new agriculture minister. Chhagan Bhujbal gets the food, civil supply and consumer protection department. Hollywood actors join a strike by writers demanding a fairer split of profits and address concerns over artificial intelligence. Production of movies, TV shows and others comes to a grinding halt in what is the first Hollywood shutdown in 6 decades. Artificial sweetener Aspartame is safe to consume, but in moderation, says the World Health Organization. Study shows limited evidence of carcinogenicity in humans, even as it classifies aspartame as possibly carcinogenic. Well, let's start with the market action this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty ending at record highs thanks to a late rally. The Sensex gained over 500 points and the Nifty over 150 points. Mid-caps rallied along with the blue chips, with the index gaining more than 400 points. Bank stocks underperformed marginally but managed to gain nearly 0.5%. Foreign portfolio investors have pumped in nearly $13 billion into India so far this year. In fact, India has outperformed many Asian peers. Sonia standing by to take us through the details. FPI is back and back with the bank, Sonia.
It is a significant amount of money that has come into the Indian markets this year so far compared to its Asian peers. It has been one of the best performing markets. And if you look at it, it is the biggest buying that foreign portfolio investors have done in India since way back in December 2020. If you look at the absolute numbers, India has seen almost $13 billion of money that has come in. Now let's compare it to their Asian peers. We don't have data from China, but the rest of the Asian peers, India has got a disproportionate amount. On Taiwan, the amount has been about $9.5 billion. That's the FPI inflows, while South Korea has seen about $9 billion or so. In fact, in a couple of markets, the other markets, there's actually been outflows. So look at Thailand. There's been an outflow of $3.5 billion, while there's been an outflow of almost $450 million from the Philippines market. So in that context, India is the best performing market. Now, there are many reasons why India has outperformed. One, the macro situation has definitely improved. Growth has picked up across the board. In fact, rating agency Fitch recently raised the FY24 GDP forecast to 6.3%. As we know, GST collections have picked up in the big way. They rose about 12% in the month of June alone. Growth has also picked up in terms of the sentiment indicators, whether it's auto sales, cement sales, etc. But now we put forward for you the valuation argument, right? You would think that after the performance that India has seen, it could be expensive, but not really. It is in line with its historical averages, which are about 19-20 times. Just to give you the exact number, the Nifty 1-year forward PE is about 19 times versus a 10-year average of 17.5 times. So still not too expensive despite the kind of up move that India has seen. But just a couple of risks that I want to put on the table, because the markets are at all-time highs. The investor sentiment is in an extremely bullish zone. CLSA put out a report this week where they said that the bull-bear index has jumped to 92% bullish after the Nifty rallied 15% in less than 4 months. So yes, the market has rallied substantially. Some caution perhaps is due to be taken on board, but suffice to say India has been the best performing market this year.
Yes, it certainly is. Sonia, many thanks for joining us. Now, India's wholesale prices contracted for the third consecutive month. The WPI index declined by 4.12% in June. This is the lowest reading since November of 2015. The decline primarily due to a fall in prices of mineral oils, food products, basic metals, crude oil and textiles. Now, India's overall trade deficit has narrowed to less than $9 billion in June from nearly $11 billion in June of 2022. Both exports and imports declined by about 13% each due to a slowdown in global markets. Exports stood at over $60 billion in June, while imports stood at about $69 billion. Senco Gold glittering on the Lal Street, debuting at a listed price of 430 rupees a share on the NSE, which is a premium of more than 35% over its issue price. Senco Gold raised more than 400 crore rupees through its IPO, which was subscribed more than 70 times. But the big story, India takes another step towards the moon. Chandrayaan-3, ISRO's third lunar exploration mission, successfully lifted off from Sriharikota today. The satellite will attempt to do what Chandrayaan-2 could not. It will make a soft landing and explore the moon's surface with a rover. If successful, India will become only the fourth nation after the US, Soviet Union and China to land a probe on the moon. Prime Minister Modi said the mission scripts a new chapter in India's space odyssey. And Archana Solanki is standing by to take us through the significance of the Chandrayaan mission. Archana.
At 2:35 p.m. today, India moonwalked its way to writing history from Satish Dhawan Space Centre in Sriharikota. ISRO scientists successfully launched Chandrayaan-3 into the moon's orbit for a soft landing on the lunar surface. Hopes of 1 billion Indians and the eyes of scientists across the world were on this mission. Let me tell you about India's date with the Earth's most romantic natural satellite. This is India's third mission to the moon after Chandrayaan-1 and 2. After today's launch, it will take around 42 days to make a soft landing, tentatively on 23rd or the 24th of August. If India succeeds, then she will join the exclusive club of 3 countries that have done a soft landing so far. They are America, China and the former Soviet Union. So far, only China has managed to get it right in the first attempt. For the first time, a spacecraft is going to soft land on the moon's completely unexplored South Pole and discover important secrets. So far, all missions were explored around the moon's equator. It is not easy to land on the moon's surface. The average distance between the Earth and the moon is 384,400 kilometers. During the month of July, the distance between Earth and the moon is relatively less. India's biggest and heaviest rocket, LVM-3, also known as the Bahubali of rockets or Fat Boy, that has a spectacular past record, was used to launch this spacecraft. Now let's try to understand why we are going to the moon. The main objectives of this mission is to do a soft landing on the moon's surface, study it and conduct experiments. The data collected from this mission will be very crucial in the future missions, including Artemis, that will land the humans on the moon, and to also understand the presence of water ice there. The cost of this project is 615 crore rupees or $75 million, much cheaper than some of the Hollywood and Bollywood movies. Remember, ISRO is known to carry out big missions on a low budget. This mission is being led by ISRO's star scientist Ritu Karidhar Srivastava. She is also known as India's rocket woman. She was also the deputy director of India's Mars mission.
Archana, many thanks for joining us. That is the inside story of Chandrayaan-3. Now, Prime Minister Modi and French President Macron attending the Bastille Day parade in Paris. The parade saw the participation of a 269-member Indian Tri-Services contingent. 3 Rafale fighter jets of the Indian Air Force joined the flypast on the occasion along with French jets. Further, Prime Minister Modi also addressed the Indian diaspora in Paris last night. In his address, the Prime Minister said that both India and France have agreed on using the UPI mechanism and that Indian tourists in France will now be able to use the UPI soon.
फ्रांस में भारत के यूपीआई के उपयोग को लेकर भी समझौता हो गया है। साथियों, आने वाले दिनों में इसकी शुरुआत आईफेल टावर से की जाएगी। भारतीय टूरिस्ट मोबाइल ऐप के जरिए आईफेल टावर में रुपये में भुगतान कर पाएगा।
So UPI now available in France. And speaking of UPI, the payment interface has seen growing acceptance globally across many countries before adding France to its list. That's the latest. Ritu joins us now with more on the expanding global footprint of the UPI. Ritu, so take us through what the UPI has on its international roster.
Well, UPI, which has really been the catalyst for boosting digital payments in India and making it the envy of the world, is going global. And in the latest development, after inking a similar agreement with Singapore in Feb this year, India and France have now entered into an agreement to allow the use of UPI in France very soon. And this is a significant step towards expanding the reach of UPI and promoting seamless digital transactions. But did you know that UPI has already made its mark in several other countries? For instance, UPI's QR code-based payment is already acceptable in countries like Singapore, UAE, Bhutan, as well as Mauritius. In fact, Bhutan was the first country to allow UPI transactions in 2021. And NIPL, which is the global arm of NPCI, has been actively forging partnerships in several countries to enable UPI payment acceptance across North and Southeast Asia. Nepal adopted UPI for digital transactions in 2022, as did Oman. But UPI's global play does not stop there. Worldline, which is a leading European payment service provider, tied up with NIPL last year to expand the acceptance of Indian payment means across Europe for Indian tourists. And more recently, in January, NPCI announced that NRIs from 10 countries like Singapore, Australia, US, Canada, UK, etc. are gradually going to be able to use UPI to send and receive money using their own international mobile numbers. Now, if you look at the numbers, UPI already accounts for more than 75% of all retail digital transaction volumes in India, and this is expected to go up to 90% in the next few years as per RBI. So after this kind of success here in India, it was but natural for NPCI to expand UPI's global presence, and this international play will both accelerate and reduce the cost of cross-border transactions to and from India, which is the world's top remittance market.
Ritu, many thanks for joining us. Let's talk about global earnings now. Banking giant JPMorgan reported a strong set for Q2. The largest bank in the US has seen its quarterly revenue jump 34%, crossing $41 billion. Profits were more than $14 billion, which was a growth of 67%. The bank's CEO Jamie Dimon says the US economy continues to be resilient and consumer spending is returning, albeit a little slowly. JPMorgan recently demonstrated its hold over the industry with the acquisition of the troubled First Republic Bank. On the other hand, Citigroup's quarterly profits down 36% in the June quarter, weighed down by continued weakness in deal making. The group's market revenue also fell 13%, while investment banking fee down 24%. However, Citi's Treasury and Trade Solutions Group saw revenues rise by 15%. Overall, total revenue was down 1%. Here's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive tonight. The government has not given up on its plan to include international credit cards under the Liberalised Remittance Scheme, or the LRS. Sources tell us the decision by the government to postpone the inclusion of credit cards under the scheme is not indefinite. Sapna joins us now with more. Sapna, what are you picking up? International credit cards out of the LRS ambit, most certainly till October, but what about post that?
What we are given to understand very clearly from sources is the fact that the government's earlier decision to not include, or rather to postpone the inclusion of overseas credit cards into the LRS and hence not to levy the TCS, it's not an indefinite postponement. So, credit cards at some point in time are definitely going to be a part of the liberalized remittance scheme reporting, and also a TCS will be levied. The government's basic intent over here is very clear. The issue is just this much, that especially the credit card networks and NBFCs also need time to upgrade their IT systems. And that time limit may be longer than October 1. October 1 is a normal timeline for the higher TCS rate to kick in for other modes of payment. So it could be a longer timeline than October 1, but the basic intent over here is very clear, that credit cards for overseas spend will be included into LRS, and there will be a TCS on that. That's one. Second, in terms of the credit card networks, well, MasterCard, Visa, RuPay, Amex, Diners Club, all of them are having to work on this front, along with the non-banking financial companies, which are still not up to speed on this matter. Banks and authorized dealers are relatively in a better position, but this is where the issue lies, and once that's resolved, government will take a call on the implementation date.
Okay, Sapna, many thanks for joining us. Union Minister for IT and Telecom Ashwini Vaishnav addressed the G20 conference on crime and security in the age of artificial intelligence. The minister said the government will invest another $13 billion to expand the optical fibre grid. Speaking with our colleague Ashmit Kumar, the minister expressed concerns about the power of big tech and monopolies in the sector. Listen in.
So you mentioned that as far as new technology is concerned, it's difficult to not talk about big technologies, that big technologies can't be allowed to monopolize access to technology, and that is the government's message. Just some insight as to whether this is something that will reflect in not just the past course of action, but also the future course of action?
Of course, this is today visible in multiple sectors, in the payment sector, in the health sector. In so many different ways, we are creating public-private partnership-based platforms, which can then help create solutions which democratize technology.
That is the Telecom and IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav. Several areas in Delhi continue to be flooded after water levels in the Yamuna rose to a record 45-year high after incessant rainfall. Several low-lying areas along the Yamuna are still inundated, raising fears of health hazards. There was waterlogging at ITO, Kashmiri Gate and Rajghat. Over 23,000 people have been evacuated so far. 3 teenagers drowned while taking a bath in floodwaters in Mukundpur. Abhimanyu Sharma joins us now. Abhimanyu, give us a sense of the overall situation in the capital. Which are the areas that continue to be impacted at this point in time?
Over 23,000 people have been evacuated from the flooded areas of Delhi, even as the flooding persists. 3 water treatment plants at Wazirabad, Chandrawal and Okhla have been closed due to waterlogging at their premises. The closed plants supply up to 25% of the city's water requirement, and water supply in the national capital is expected to be impacted in the coming days. 5 out of the 11 districts of the national capital have witnessed flooding due to an overflowing Yamuna and backflow from drains. Water from the 48-kilometer stretch of Yamuna in Delhi has now inundated areas like Buradi, Majnu Ka Tila, Monastery Market and Rajghat in central Delhi, Kingsway Camp and Swaroop Nagar in North Delhi, Geeta Colony in Shahdara district, Badarpur Khadar, Khajuri Khas and Usmanpur in Northeast district, and Batla House and parts of Sarai Kale Khan in Southeast district. Heavy waterlogging has been observed at parts of central Delhi, including the ITO region and near the Supreme Court of India. Metro trains are crossing the Yamuna River at lower speeds, and parts of the ring road bordering Yamuna have been blocked due to inundation. Entry of trucks and interstate buses have been curbed at Delhi's borders near the Yamuna River to curb traffic, even as the Delhi police has issued an advisory for people to avoid low-lying areas. Even in Noida, the local administration has evacuated over 700 people from inundated areas, while areas near the Yamuna Expressway and the proposed airport in Jewar are free from any waterlogging so far. Thankfully, the impact of the inundation is largely restricted to the 5-kilometer periphery of Yamuna's floodplains, and the waterlogging in rest of the parts of Delhi NCR is due to localized rains. Interstate buses are dropping and picking up people in border areas but not entering Delhi. Air travel is continuing as usual. Rail operations are on despite cancellation of over 250 trains by Northern Railways in the past 10 days. The railway stations at New Delhi, Old Delhi, Nizamuddin and Delhi Cantonment are functional despite waterlogging on many of their approach roads. Road traffic on the Yamuna Expressway and the highways leading to Chandigarh and Jaipur is moving as usual. Another point of worry is the discharge of 3.5 lakh cubic water from the Hatnikund barrage in Haryana on Tuesday. The barrage is the last controlled checkpoint for Yamuna's water before it enters Delhi. The fresh discharge takes around 3 days to reach Delhi, and the administration as well as people living near the flooded areas will be watching the developments.
Abhimanyu, many thanks for joining us. Perspective, not panic. That is the need of the hour, and that tells you the areas that are impacted. It is not as if the entire city, whether it's the capital or adjoining areas, are underwater. That is not the situation at this point in time. Time for us to head into a short break. Up next, for the first time in 6 decades, Hollywood is staring at a potential halt. Hollywood's largest union, representing over 1.6 lakh actors, including A-listers, joins screenwriters in a historic strike. The Maharashtra government has announced its cabinet expansion. Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar has got the finance portfolio along with 6 other departments. Dhananjay Munde is the new agriculture minister. The Ministry of Cooperation has been allocated to Dilip Walse Patil. Veteran leader Chhagan Bhujbal has been given food supplies, while Hassan Mushrif got medical education. Aditi Tatkare is the new woman and child development minister. Another cheetah died at Madhya Pradesh's Kuno National Park. This is the second death in the last 4 days and the 8th death in nearly 4 months. A post-mortem is being conducted to ascertain the cause of death. The death of another cheetah adds to the challenges being faced by the reintroduction program launched by Prime Minister Modi in September last year by relocating cheetahs from Namibia and South Korea to the Kuno National Park. Now, the World Health Organization has said that there is not enough evidence to establish that artificial sweetener aspartame causes cancer. However, the WHO has said that aspartame is considered safe as long as it is within 40 milligram per kilogram of a person's body weight. Ekta joins us now with the details. Ekta, what is the WHO saying now?
Well, the WHO has said that there is not enough evidence to establish if the 40-year-old artificial sweetener aspartame causes cancer as it continues to monitor new evidence. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, or the IARC, and the Joint Expert Committee on Food Additives, or the JECFA, carried out independent but complementary reviews on the chemical-based sweetener to assess its health risks. Aspartame has been widely used since the 1980s and is found in a variety of household items and food products, ranging from toothpaste, chewable vitamins, cough syrups to diet drinks, chewing gums, cereals, diet products, amongst others. The IARC, which evaluated aspartame for the first time, classified the sweetener as possibly carcinogenic. The artificial sweetener has now been clubbed with 300 other agents that the IARC thinks is possibly carcinogenic but has limited evidence supporting the linkage to it. This ranges from aloe vera, pickled vegetables to lead, carbon black and diesel fuel. The JECFA conducted their review on aspartame for the 3rd time and said there is no need to cut daily intake. A person can consume up to 40 mg of aspartame per kg of body weight. That means a person weighing 70 kgs can consume 2,800 mg of aspartame a day. A diet soft drink contains 200 to 300 mg of aspartame, so a 70 kg individual will only exceed the daily limit of the sweetener if they consume more than 9 to 14 cans of the soda drink or diet soda drink in a day. Lastly, the WHO has pointed that while safety is not a major concern at the doses which are commonly used of the sweetener, the potential effects need to be investigated by more and better studies to assess whether it does indeed cause cancer, the disease which kills 1 in 6 people every year globally.
Ekta, many thanks for joining us. Now, for the first time in 6 decades, Hollywood is staring at a potential halt. Hollywood's largest union, representing over 1.6 lakh actors, including A-listers, has decided to join screenwriters in a historic strike. The Screenwriters and Actors Union failed to reach an agreement with studios on fairer pay, share in profit sharing, increased safeguarding of artificial intelligence rights. The joint strike will impact many popular shows. Production of The Last of Us, Stranger Things, Robert De Niro's 0 Day have all been halted. Matthew Thomas reports on how the historic strike could end up altering Hollywood's course. Take a look.
Hollywood is on the verge of its first big shutdown in 63 years. Its movie stars are officially headed to the picket line after talks for a new contract with studios and streaming services broke down. The failed negotiations will effectively shut down film and TV productions. They will join more than 11,000 film and television writers who have already been striking since May. Star of the TV show Nanny and president of the Screen Actors Guild, Fran Drescher, announced the strike in an impassioned speech that has gone viral.
I am shocked by the way the people that we have been in business with are treating us. I cannot believe it, quite frankly. How far apart we are on so many things. How they plead poverty, that they're losing money left and right when giving hundreds of millions of dollars to their CEOs. It is disgusting.
The members of the Screen Actors Guild are demanding increases in base pay and residuals in the streaming TV era. They also want assurances that their work won't be replaced by artificial intelligence.
It is a slippery slope into a very dangerous time and a real dystopia if big business corporations think that they can put human beings out of work and replace them with artificial intelligence. It's dangerous.
The Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers that negotiates on behalf of the studios like Walt Disney has responded to the strike. The group said that it offered historic pay and substantially higher caps on pension and health contributions. The deal also included audition protections and a groundbreaking AI proposal that protects actors' digital likeness.
And before we go, it is a bittersweet moment for us here at CNBC-TV18. We bid goodbye to what has been our home in Delhi for the last 18 years. It has been the end of an era, and as we box up our memories of the times we've spent, good, bad and ugly, a new chapter opens up for us. A new home away from home beckons. We will be broadcasting live from a new state-of-the-art studio from the capital from Monday. So a new destination, and it's curtains on what has been our home for the last 18 years.